All right, so welcome everybody to Peace Talk today. This is Linda, and I love that you are just jumping in, Linda, and you might not necessarily have a lot of experience with the work or really know exactly what's going on, but that you just said, "Yay, I'm doing it."
Mm-hmm.
So as you probably know, well, you can tell me a little bit about what you understand about the work, if anything, like what
Mm-hmm.
what you know about it. I know you have a friend who recommended it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm kind of coming into this as a complete beginner. I know that the work of Byron Katie has helped a lot of people, but I'm coming into it a bit blind, so I'm very new and I don't know what I'm getting into today.
Awesome. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Well, I just love the sort of clean slate standing ground that you can be on when you start something brand new and go like, let's just see. I know it
Mm-hmm.
seems to be helpful. So what we're going to do is identify like a situation that you notice is perhaps a repetitive problem, or you think the same things, or something happened and you continue to relook or look at it or consider it, something like, what's going on there? I'm not too happy. It's difficult feelings. I like just a disturbance within, and then
Mm-hmm.
see what our mind is saying about that disturbance.
Okay.
And when it can be articulated, like you name this concept, you kind of say, this is what these uncomfortable feelings are saying. This is what I like as I look at the world, or I see something or a specific situation. We'll make it easy because maybe we can just start with like a person or one thing you've had trouble with. And I like that we narrow it down, because if we talk about all of life and anything that you've ever experienced that's troubling, there's going to be a lot there, a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
So we narrow it down, and then we ask these questions and just see there's no wrong way to answer the questions. It's genuinely got to be your answers anyway for it to even work. Like not
Mm-hmm.
these answers or my answers or anything, but just to kind of sit with it. And all it is about just noticing. But in the noticing, it can be so interesting to, at least it has been for me, to see, oh, you look at a situation or something that's uncomfortable or disturbing a bit of a different way.
Mm-hmm.
You just see. And it's very interesting because it's just noticing stressful thoughts keep us quite stressed and nervous about the whole day. Like something else is stressful that I'm thinking about, but I might feel then stressful about everything that happens my whole day, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, or who knows, like it comes and goes, right? But well, we'll just see what happens, because working with it can be quite absolutely fascinating, life changing. At least it has been for me. Um, but what I was thinking of saying there was just an open mind, which is nice when you're brand new, like not really any expectations about where it's going for sure. Like I have an agenda to fix this right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We're just gonna, ask the questions and find turnarounds and see what happens.
Okay, I'm ready.
Right. So when you think about issues or people or a stressful situation that you've experienced
Mm-hmm.
in your life, see what flashes before your mind, or see where there's something that kind of appears as like, yep, I considered that a problem, a
Mm.
disturbance.
Okay. Am I to name it?
Yes.
At this, okay. So the immediate thing that comes to mind that I've been dealing with over the past 2.5 years is grief and the death of my ex-husband who died by suicide. And when you asked me to look at that and to see that, I saw his face. And so it's been quite the journey in these past couple years in dealing with it and accepting and going through all the stages and emotions. It's still there, and I feel it. And when I haven't talked about it in a little while, but I'm comfortable talking about it and bringing it up. And this is, I guess, this is the work in itself. But I get bodily sensations, and right now it's in the heart.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just noticing that feeling in the heart, because our feelings are so powerful about all this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at that grief and that, you know, there's something about suicide. I just acknowledge it's like the awareness of the suffering, you know. It's like there's death on one hand, or death from all these varieties of ways people transition, and something about suicide, you know, that it would, well, let's just see. So when you think about him, and
Mm-hmm.
you even think about like the height of when the volumes turned up
Mm-hmm.
on this feeling in the heart, or feeling about all of it, what situations or memories do you have? What do you remember? If you even like kind of calibrated a little bit towards, and it might be a hard thing, like that's just what's
Mm-hmm.
noticing, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's sadness still. I've been working on flipping into the happy memories, but the immediate thought still is still sadness.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you see? Like if you saw a picture of your
Mm-hmm.
memory and it was like a painting, like a photograph, and we had a caption underneath,
Mm-hmm.
you know, incredibly sad.
Mm-hmm.
What would you see? A situation, or what was happening there? When did you feel the most
Um,
sad?
I think I see his pain, his suffering.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What does he look like? What's he doing? And it, like, to be able to see his suffering, or what do you know about him? Like, what's he told you or talked about?
Um, he's having a breakdown. He's crying. He's um, oftentimes I've like held him in my arms as he was going through depression.
Mm-hmm.
But this was when we were together in our marriage, and yeah, I also see like a little boy there too. Like there's like a little boy that um, had gone through a lot,
Oh,
and that's the sense I get, that that little boy needed that nurturing.
mm-hmm.
Um, and those two pictures kind of coincide together.
Yeah. Beautiful, you know. Okay, beautiful situation. There he is. And it's like I love that it just comes to you like you've experienced it. That's how you know something. That's the situation. That's what this work is about. It's kind of seeing, remembering yourself. And the mind is very fast, right? It can see lots of images, but there you are, being with him as he is suffering. And you know about some of his childhood. So his little boy self too, that is suffering.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So as you remember that and notice it, what would you say feels the saddest for you about that moment?
Mm. um, that I just haven't, that I wasn't able to be there to help him.
Oh, yeah.
That um, I couldn't save him from it. And in our relationship, when we were together for 11 years, that I couldn't help him then either.
Okay. So you should have helped him and you couldn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You wanted to help him, you should have helped him. Okay, so that's a very, very, it's a powerful belief, just to notice. And just watching, I'm unable to help him. I didn't help him.
Mm-hmm.
I should have helped him. So that'll be the one that we're looking at as you remember that experience of him suffering and you helping as best you could, or just being there with him. Okay, so the first question is it true? So you should have helped him and you couldn't. Is that true?
I have come to believe it's true.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Good to notice, yes. I love it that it's a yes. And with the first two questions, if you answer yes to the first one, is it true? You get to sit with it a moment longer. The second question is, can I absolutely know I should have helped him? You know? Can I absolutely know that that's true? And it's okay if the answer is still yes. And it's okay if it becomes no. There's no right way to answer that question. It's just what seems, it's just awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting, can I absolutely know it's true that I didn't help him and that I should have helped him, more. Is it absolutely true as you just consider those beliefs or those concepts? I could have helped him, and
yeah, I still do.
Good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's wonderful to ponder because it's just seeing in your situation unique, and sometimes as you look, you can see, oh, that's not actually absolutely true. And sometimes it feels like it. No, that's absolutely true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what happens when you think this thought? I could have helped him. I should have helped him. Should have gone differently. It's like the story. What happens inside of you when you think this thought?
Guilt, of course.
Mm.
And yeah, guilt is like the biggest one. That's like the overarching.
Yeah. See what guilt
and
feels like.
Responsibility. Same, along the same line of guilt and responsibility.
Yeah. Feel what guilt feels like in your body. Like, where do you feel that in your body? Guilt.
It kind of is encompassing and almost still centered in the heart, like a heaviness in the heart, but then I'm getting the sensations of also like in my hands right now too. I haven't, this is the first time I've kind of observed it. I feel like I'm holding on to it in my hands.
Wow. Just watch it and see if it has a color or a texture. I could have helped him. I should have helped him. And I couldn't. I should have helped him, and I couldn't.
It feels very heavy in my hand, like almost unbearable to carry this weight.
Yeah. And do you see any pictures that go with it? Like, just imagine being there. He's crying, you know, and you're with him in that situation, and you see just a future, or where you would have, like, what it might have looked like if you, I should have helped, should have been able to help. Just pictures of any images about the future.
To be clear, in that thought, in that picture of being with him, the first thing that is coming to me is like in holding, it's like this box, this, I don't know why, but I'm just getting this rectangular box. It's separate from that image of being with him, but that's a feeling I'm getting, like I'm carrying this heavy box.
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know if that has to do, I don't know. This is very, this is a very new way of me experiencing the grief.
Yeah. Well, I like what happens when it comes. It doesn't have to be logical. It's just feeling it and feeling the experience, and what grief and guilt, you know, like what happens when we have such grief, heartbreak, piercing the heart, and also this, what guilt feels like. I should have helped, you know, I couldn't help, but I'm guilty, you know, I just the responsibility. Yeah. Okay. So see how far back that thought goes. You know, you might, like, you had it in that moment where it's kind of peaked, or that's definitely a strong moment where you're holding him and he's crying. And you can see, this is an interesting question, how far back it goes with him. You know, I should help him. Seems like I'm not able to help him. But even see if it goes earlier in life, like when that thought ever first occurred to you.
Yeah, it's interesting because the first thought that comes to my mind is like the first pet that I had as a child that died. It was a little hamster. It was like a little rodent hamster, and that's probably maybe my first experience with something dying that I loved. Oh, wow. So I remember when it died, I had went to my backyard and dug a little hole right in the center of the backyard growing up. And I had this hamster, and I distinctly remember placing it in this box and placing it into the earth. So that's the first thought that came to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that sweet? It's like awareness of, you know, when you learn about death in a way, like when you're a kid, being a human being, you're going to become conscious of what death is at some point, you know, loving something, and a life that dies, or kind of sweet. Did you have a feeling at the time of any guilt mixed with that? I'm responsible?
As a child, then I think there was more confusion, because within my culture, we don't talk about death ever. And so I think I was more so confused of, I didn't know how, if being in my first experience of something that I love that died, I didn't know how to process at that time as an 8-year-old child. Yeah. So I think confusion was kind of the biggest thing, and of course hurt and pain. But I didn't really get the concept of, like, okay, this thing that I had that I love now is gone and dead. But what is that? Is that what life is?
Good to notice, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and just all the flowering in a way of, I don't know what death is. I know something's happened. And
Mm-hmm.
I always find this interesting. It's like noticing the mind's tendency to have that be bad. Just noticing. And the people around us think it is like, that's a terrible thing. Or like, it's, I'm just the heartbreak. And it doesn't mean we shouldn't be heartbroken, but it's like, just pierced in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then just seeing, watching that. So in a way, images of what death is, and remembering and being with this being was your husband, remembering, and that this one seems to not have a body anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, he has died. Is that actually true? Can I absolutely know that that's true?
Yes. Yeah.
And see what happens when you think it, he died. Just looking at the meanings, the experience of what death is. Doesn't mean you're wrong about their bodies. Their body is no longer here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You see, how do I react when I believe they died?
I feel like I'm at a point now when I answer that question. How do I feel when I believe that they've died? That in the physical form that he has, but energetically not.
Yeah.
Energetically, I know he's here and with me.
Isn't that sweet to notice? Like, so the mind will go like, oh yeah, he's dead. He died. And then you realize, wait a minute.
Mm.
I can't absolutely know it in all like whatever death is. I guess the body, but am I sure what I'm thinking about death is accurate, And I just find it's the same thing as you are. It's like, oh, right. I feel in communication with him,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like memories of him. I feel something present right now because here we are talking about him. Like you're sharing him with me.
Mm-hmm.
There's a moment like I didn't know, I just met him now. It's like this.
Yeah.
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 It's just watching the story of what we think death is, and then this very heavy thought, and I'm responsible. When that comes in too, I mean, suicide, yeah. So just watching the heaviness or the burden of that. I just find it's, I could have, like I go back over past images, like the one you're seeing, but even could I have done something there? I could have, maybe if I had said so-and-so, I should have done that. I know better now, or like this kind of thing. I could have undone it. I could have switched it, or I tried so hard and it didn't work. And like a lot of even though it's past is over, the mind will like be going like, well, let's look at this again, you know, kind of being bad and painful. So something's definitely painful about that. So here's this fourth question. Very interesting. Who would you be without the thought, I should have been able to help him. I couldn't help him. Like, it's like it should have gone differently. Isn't that interesting? Who would I be if I wasn't able to have the thought, I should have done it differently, should have helped him?
Who would I be? I would be able to celebrate him.
Wow.
And celebrate his life and his impact that he's had on me. And honor him and his legacy. Yeah, celebrate is like, that's coming up for me there.
So different. Celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrate is
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean there aren't tears flowing and, very different though.
Mm-hmm.
Without guilt, without you're responsible.
Mm. Who
would you be? Just feel that without the thought, I'm guilty here. Like, with the feeling, what it was like in the big box and the heaviness. Who would I be without that story? I'm responsible. I'm guilty. I should have helped.
Yeah. I would be free from taking that responsibility on.
Yeah. Sounds lighter.
Yeah.
Definitely lighter.
I'd be a lot more compassionate, I think, toward myself. It'd be a lot easier on myself.
Yeah. So the last part of the work is you get to turn it around, and it doesn't mean any way that you turn it around is the full-on truth. It's just on different, it's like different perspectives, with the thought, the pair of glasses we're wearing are like that I should have helped him and I'm guilty. Very burdensome, heavy. It's just noticing what those glasses feel like when I look at this and him and myself that way. So now we turn it around. I should have helped him. And I could have helped him, turned around to the self is it's an interesting one way to turn something around, like turn the concept around or look at it differently, which is I should have helped myself. I could have helped myself in that situation with him. And it's just to see, could that be true? Like, is it me who I missed helping? And it doesn't mean it's just like any tiny example works with this. It doesn't mean that's the truth.
I'm having I'm having a tough time like looking looking away from me involved in that situation and turning it in.
Well, I can see like there you are seeing yourself. Great to stay right in the situation. There you are holding him, like beautiful moment.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way? Is there a way I'm could have helped myself? Whatever help means here, you know, whatever the same kind of help that I think I needed to give him. Could I have given that to myself? And just seeing. Or is there like this idea I should have done something differently, you know, I'm guilty. Simple turnaround is the opposite. I am not guilty. I'm not guilty here.
Mm-hmm.
It's an amazing idea about the idea that we're always doing the best we can, and everyone is. Everyone is. And we'll usually, we're the ones that are the last to get that, you know, that like freedom. It's like, oh yeah, now I get how everybody else is doing the best they can, or he was doing the best he could in that moment. I don't think I was, you know. It's like seeing, given who I was and what I knew and what I was thinking, I couldn't have known anything more than I knew at the time. Like it was just, it went the way it went. And I'm not guilty. I'm not guilty. And just to see, could that be just as true? That's my original thought, you know.
Yes. And there's a part of me that still wants to like latch on to that like so hard. So like just will not let it go, but slowly kind of chipping away at like releasing, like letting, maybe accepting that concept and that idea that I'm not guilty.
I love that. That's what an amazing thing to notice. I've noticed the same thing with the mind. Like, no, I can't not be guilty. In fact, it might be not so good to not have that thought. I need to have that thought. It's a very interesting thing to notice. And why would the mind say it needs to be guilty? Like for example, I would notice things like the mind saying, well, if you don't know what's right or wrong, you just, you know, you become like chaotic, or the life is chaotic, or there's no way to, you know, you'll never know exactly what to do, or you'll do the wrong thing if you don't know, you know, if you're not trying to do the right thing, you'll do the wrong thing. Bad things will happen unless you know what's innocent and what's guilty. Anyway, it's got a whole world in there about that. You know, it's very interesting. So it's great to just notice, I'm not too sure about giving up this guilt thing. Something's been valuable to me about knowing who's guilty and who isn't, or it seems a little too unknown if I don't know. Which is just helpful to notice. There's more concepts there in some ways that you can also inquire into. Like, do I absolutely know that's true? Do I know it's true that if I was no longer guilty about this at all, there would be something dangerous about that? Or that's just watching.
Well, what comes up for me is that coming back to that last question, what would I be without it? That I could be free from that.
Free from that, very free.
I'm able now to go back to that last question just now about if turning it back to the self. and looking at what something about myself that maybe if there's things that I need to deal with internally that I was portraying onto him that I was trying to fix or help with him, could have been some putting myself aside and not working on the things that I need to deal with personally in my life.
Wow. Yeah.
Maybe along the lines within like purpose and worth and self-worth and kind of projecting and wanting to help him carry and bring him up, whereas deep down there's those things that I needed to explore within myself and just putting them aside.
What an amazing thing to notice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean like if I, it just never means in these turnarounds, oh, I know, yes, this help that I wanted to give him, or this, that I'm, just good to notice. I was setting that aside within me. And could I have given myself some sort of help, even when it came to him? Like I might have expected myself to be more than was possible. There's that too, It's just a sweet thing to notice. It's like, yeah, I'm not guilty. I'm not guilty. It's just as it is, went the way it did, unfolded it is, and can I just find any examples of that and just noticing? And I like that. I should have helped him. I should have helped myself in the situation. And it's okay that you didn't know how. I can find that too.
Yeah, that's a big piece for me to just hear you say that I didn't know how.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. Yeah. I thought I had exhausted all my resources, and I thought that's the best that I could have done for him.
Yeah.
But I didn't know.
Yeah. And it's funny how the mind will go back to and saying, even if you know more now, we'll go back and say, well, you should have known more then, even though it's like proactive guilt almost. Not much compassion for things just going as they do in the right the timing they go. So that's
and so wanting it to be different.
Yes. Okay, so beautiful. So another turnaround is, it's okay that it went the way it went. I shouldn't have helped him. Or maybe even I did help him and it went the way it went.
That feels viscerally so I want to, like, the word that comes up for me is like gross. Like that feels so gross to be able to be with that.
Yeah. It's a very strange thing. It's like, oh my gosh. Well, it's like just being able to try it on like a jacket. Could it be in this world, it looks like there is suicide. There's definitely death. There's suicide. Could there be anything, could there be anything helpful about suicide? I mean, like what my mind, where I go with it is, I know it takes something will seem like, no, you've got, because you're not, it's cold, it's gross.
Yeah.
Well, if death is a movement into this unknown mystery, and something moves on very powerfully because you no longer have a body, could be something good about that. I can just find that. Like, what do I know? If it appears to end some kind of suffering here, immense suffering.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I would wish it to, like I'm saying, wonderful, this is great that it went that way or anything, but it's noticing something happens and something changed very big. And so something happened and called suicide, or the movement out of a body into whatever's next. So as far as the suffering in this life, it's over. That could be a good thing. According to, from the perspective of that person.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what that is. Yeah. And that's what it was for him.
Yeah. It's like doing the best they can with the information they've got. It does seem like in reality, suicide exists. So if I'm not arguing with reality, and I'm not saying I love it and I hope it happens constantly. That's not it. It's just noticing. I think of it as all bad, all like a tragedy. And it may be that it's going differently than I expect. Yeah. So that's an interesting one to sit with. Like if I'm not, just to hold that complete opposite of every way we usually look at it, like it should have gone differently. It should have gone the way it went. How bizarre. Can't seem, just, the mind will be like, no, that's just not, no, there's no good reason for that. But it's just to see even something like that reason, that the person is now completely liberated, whatever. Certainly not in this life.
It's a different way to look at it, certainly. Yeah.
In doing this work myself and looking at suicide, I also found that person seemed to be so powerless, like just unbelievably powerless. That was their perception in their life, just so small, not able to kind of assert or make anything happen. Like in some ways, like everything, just hard time with their past, hard time with their mind, hard time with their feelings, like just a kind of a tossed around by all of that. And in a way, the suicide is full on power. Like it's just a power to move away from that.
This is someone that you've had experience with in your life?
Yeah, well, in my own inquiry work on them committing suicide. Yeah. I thought, how could it be?
Okay.
Like, how could this be? How could there be any benefits?
Yeah.
So much pain. There's so much sorrow left over. There's so much there. But then actually, so I'm just in finding and sitting with it and finding my own example, it was like, well, that is certainly an act of power.
Yeah.
Somebody who felt I know that they felt absolutely powerless. Like they just can't, constantly in their life for many years,
I get that. And that word power it's powerful, that I didn't to look from that perspective, from his perspective at the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's see if there's any other turnarounds. There's 3 places to look at this, like turned around to the side, turned around So your original concept, I should have helped him and I couldn't. He should have helped me and he couldn't. But just to see, is there any, like, could that have been going on? I mean, and it doesn't mean it's true, again, Um, it's like almost the original thought, I should have helped him, and I didn't. I didn't help him. Guilty. He should have helped me. I turned around and he did. There's something about the way it went. I received help from this person. I received something. I received something very important.
So many things.
Mm-hmm.
I've received a whole new outlook on life and the fragility of life and how I can live my life and how I can be for other people. I've received a big inquiry of what love means, or what I think love meant and what it means. I think I've received a better concept of what I need to move towards in pursuing my purpose. And that's to be of service and to help people. I'm working on formulating what that will look like. Amazing. But it's I've received a lot from him being in my life and from this experience of losing him in his physicalness.
Sounds amazing. It's like, what an amazing thing to look at what help is in the human condition. It's like he gave you this chance to look at what I believe help is and how I can genuinely do it, but not have it required, like not be guilty if I don't, because that's a suffering position,
Mm-hmm.
And to notice what you can survive.
Yeah, that's been a big one.
Yeah, like what is death? What is loss? Suicide, especially, just
been one of the biggest things that but I can survive, because there's so many moments that it felt like it wasn't possible to move on.
I find it so profound to notice that even if the mind is saying I can't move on, you wind up doing it anyway. It's like reality is friendlier than we see it often. Yeah. So it's like he died. Is that true? You were finding, well, he didn't, And that one, turning that thought around, he didn't die. I died. So some part of me died.
Yeah.
And good to notice what didn't die.
My heart hasn't died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that something? It's like it can be so broken. I just think of that as like pierced, right through. But it's not, it's still there. I mean, it's like almost bursting open. It's almost bigger. It feels so full, which is very powerful thing to notice.
Mm.
Yeah. 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 So, yeah, what an amazing inquiry you've done here. I mean, very, very profound, you know. Um, that's, I'd say, you know, it seems so. So remember that thing that felt gross, that part.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
find what's this can't be a there can't be anything good about this whatsoever, and it's just noticing. Can I absolutely know that's true? I mean, sort of like. Um, for me, it's watching, and I see. I don't completely know. You know, life is a great mystery, and so this is what
Mm.
happened in this one. You know, this was included. Lots of other stuff is included too, but in this life, okay, there was suicide to be a part of, or you know, and then just what kind of what love is and death is, and awareness. And I do like noticing everybody only has a temporary time on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And some people do this amazing thing where they decide to make it shorter than if they didn't do something. You know, who knows? It's interesting, but it's still, and you know, that's a powerful thing to watch with it all. But if there's guilt-free, uh, just finding examples and having an open mind and an open heart towards guiltless, you know, not guilty, innocent, innocent
Mm-hmm.
for everyone involved. Yeah, I find it so, it's just sort of stunning. So mind will say like, no, there's a problem and you can never, it will never be okay. And that's just not good at all. And you can't, there's no reality. It's all one-sided, bad, bad,
Mm-hmm.
bad. It's kind of like just to be the little drops of pieces that seem like, and what if I don't, what if I'm not God, knowing the whole entire thing around, like with my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is really powerful to see those little examples of
Yeah.
not being 100% sure this is the worst.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, when I hear you say that, like, I two things that come up for me is like coming back to that freedom again, and then liberation. And I noticed when you mentioned liberation for him in a sense, and his power, and that's, I feel like that it's a way for me to liberate myself and not guilty, and like working with that and looking with that through that lens.
Yeah, you can find examples for how it has freed you, like just any tiny examples, and do it. Find your examples guilt-free, you know, guilt-free. Like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, yeah, I just get to see if there's anything that's a genuine example of liberation here. And I can see the appreciation or the gratitude you have for this person, this being in your life, and although so heartbreaking, how much you've learned, how much you're still learning.
So grateful. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love Byron Katie has this little saying, so many little ones, but one of them is happiness is a guilt-free experience.
Hmm.
And to question our guilt, you know, to question, I know what the right way and the wrong way is. And it's just such a kind and gentle thing to see our innocence. Like, I mean, you're doing the best you could.
Mm-hmm.
And that was enough. That you know, like, so the mind was, I mean, if your mind is like mine, the way it gets kind of, well, the best you could do wasn't good enough. You know, it's like, it'll get that, but it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm not that. It's not meaning that in that way. It's like just noticing it went the way it went, and there could be a benefit, just not so lopsided. Doesn't mean you aren't, you know, just the experience of being present to anyone's suicide isn't, yeah, isn't painful, but yeah, so sweet to work with you today. Wow.
Oh, thank you so much, Grace. I've been able, you've given me the opportunity to look and inquire in a whole different set of ways or surrounding this grief and this experience. So I'm super grateful, and thank you so much for your time and working with me.
You're so welcome. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Lots of love.
Thank you so much.